Wait a minute. Zachary Levi was begging people to go and watch Shazam! Fury of the Gods instead of John Wick 4? Well, Zachary, how did that work out for you then? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And a very warm welcome to Monday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. On today's show, we discuss the suspicious timing of snydercon 2. We also asked the question in how and what role Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby actually played within all of this, and if we can actually trust them. And at the end of the video, we're going to discuss Todd Phillips' Joker, Folie à Deux, Joker 2. More images, Harley Quinn in a newspaper, Harley Quinn and the Joker together. And, you know, it's being reported about their love story within this story. So Todd Phillips is really going there, and the extremists are not going to be happy with Todd Phillips yet again. Making the right people angry makes me extremely happy. But first of all, on Monday's edition of the DC Universe Daily, we talk about the suspicious timing of snydercon 2. I yet again want to be absolutely clear here on my platform. This platform is a supporter of Zack Snyder. We love the Snyderverse. We want the Snyderverse to be restored, but also on this platform, we don't like misinformation and people having false hope. There's nothing wrong with people being hopeful about restoring the Snyderverse or supporting or doing the hashtag events. There was a beautiful one last night thanking Pam, Adby and Mike DeLuca for what they've done for snydercon 2. And I echo those sentiments. You know, it was a very high, trending event as well. So that's great. But we have to talk about the suspicious timing of snydercon 2. I want to remind you that Warner Brothers Discovery, like most of Hollywood right now, are facing a lot of karma. They're not making money. Their shit isn't selling, right? New Hollywood's plan to gaslight their own audience and, and promote extremist propaganda in their content hasn't worked out, and people are voting with their wallet. So Warner Brothers Discovery is a very desperate company. I think it's utterly suspicious that 1 minute we're talking about Shazam! Fury of the Gods being a flop. All of a sudden, Zack Snyder starts posting on Twitter and on Vero about snydercon 2. But at first, we don't even know it's snydercon 2. We don't know what's going on, what he's teasing. It's very, very exciting. Ultimately, we find out it's snydercon 2, that he's screening Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. For audiences, this event sells out, I don't know, within 10 minutes, 3 hours, whatever it was. It was really, really fast. He then starts going to the usual suspects on YouTube, doing interviews, celebrating Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby, calling James Gunn his pal, and saying that Warner Brothers are now really lovely people. And it's all happy families now. If you don't find this utterly suspicious and a little bit uncomfortable, then you haven't been paying attention, because I do. Mick, why are you talking about this? Because this is a platform that's never tried to misinform people, right? And I always give you my opinion about what's going on in the world of DC and in entertainment, but I also want you to be aware of the facts. Now, what's happened with Shazam! Fury of the Gods, they've actually done their research, and now they realise the boycott from Snyderverse fans on all DC content is really hurting them. Now, let's be clear here. I think Snyderverse fans, despite what they said, did go and support the Batman and secretly enjoyed it. And they loved the Joker as well. There's no question about that. If you support an all-touring Zack Snyder, support Todd, support Matt, they've done nothing to hurt you. Boycotting them doesn't hurt you and doesn't hurt your cause. But I do. If you do want to boycott what James Gunn's doing, that's entirely up to you. And now they realise that you're not just a bunch of bots, you're not a toxic minority. That actually the boycotts coming from Snyderverse stands and other sides of the DC fandom is really hurting them. And I believe this is the true motivation of what's going on here. Because I don't think it's a happy accident that snydercon 2 gets announced as Shazam! Fury of the Gods gets released and tanks in the domestic and global box office. It's very, very suspicious. All of a sudden, Zack's telling us that Warner Brothers have been lovely. They're supporting this event. Of course they are, because he wouldn't be able to screen these movies without them. There's no question about that. Zack's gone to them, they've said yes. But what are their motivations? Are they genuinely interested in selling Snyderverse to Netflix or restoring the Snyderverse over at DC Elseworlds? I don't know that. As I say, there's nothing wrong with you being hopeful or fighting for this or wanting this. I'm with you. I support that. I support that fight. I always have. But I also don't want you to have false hope. Now, I go on Twitter a lot because I need to keep up to date with what's going on in entertainment, DC, and with my beloved Manchester United, Doctor Who, and other things. So I see a lot of Snyder fans saying, oh yeah, we're getting restored now. It's definitely happening. I don't want you to think like that. Now, don't get me wrong. You are free to think whatever you want. But I don't want your hearts to be broken if this doesn't happen after SnyderCon 2. Let's be honest here, Zack Snyder would dance in acid rain if he could get fundraising for suicide prevention awareness, and the charity. And I don't blame him for that. He'll do whatever it takes. If he's got an opportunity for, mental health awareness, then he's going to do it. If he can get fundraising for the charity, the suicide prevention charity, he's going to do it. And I don't blame him for that. But this, Zack's now saying on one of the YouTube channels he was interviewed on, he's looking forward to the Flash movie because he supports Ezra Miller. He also said that Wonder Woman 84 was a great movie during, the DC event when he was, promoting the Snyder Cut. So, you've got to be careful here. You've got to be very, very careful here. I'm not putting any blame on Zack Snyder here. I don't blame him. He wants suicide prevention awareness and fundraising. This is a great opportunity, and he's done it. By doing this event, the tickets have sold out. All that money goes 100% to the suicide prevention charity, and it creates more suicide prevention awareness. That's very important to me. Someone who has suffered with mental illness throughout my life. I've had the depression. I'm not exactly all there. Let's put it that way. I can be honest about that, and I'm sure you've noticed that. So it's something that I've had a challenge. I had special needs as a young boy. I had to go to a special school because I needed special attention in terms of learning and my behavior. So I support all of this. I'm being honest about who I am right now, and that's important. I don't want to pretend to you that I'm something that I'm not, and I've never ever done that. I've tried to be honest with you. I just want you to be careful here. Support, have hope. There's nothing wrong with that. But be aware of this timing, because SnyderCon 2 coming right now is the greatest distraction Warner Brothers Discovery could have had. It distracts from the very thing that the original Warner Brothers Pictures replaced Zack with. Walter Hamada, the new DCEU of Shazam, and all of that has tanked. And they've needed Zack to rescue them and distract from the shit show they brought in to replace him. Have a think about that for a minute. Isn't that ironic, everyone? So I want you to be fully aware that the timing is utterly suspicious, and this could lead to absolutely nothing. And this could just be a tool to distract the world from their failure and the failure of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. There's no question about that. It could be a ploy to bring Snyderverse fans in line. That won't work unless they restore the Snyderverse. I want to live in a world where James Gunn gets to do his thing with DC Studios and DC Universe. I want to live in a world where we continue to support what Todd Phillips is doing, what Matt Reeves is doing, and even what Keanu Reeves is trying to do with Constantine 2, and have the Snyderverse in the Elseworlds as well. I want it all. There's no reason why we can't have it all. There's no logical, even business logical reason why that couldn't work. I don't want Zack Snyder running DC or running a central universe. I don't have some deluded fantasies about him replacing James Gunn and James Gunn losing his job. There's some people that do have those deluded fantasies. And I don't want you to have those deluded fantasies, whether that's your want or your need. You need to stop it. The reason, Snyder has called James Gunn a pal, because he understands you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. You've got to understand that whether you like it or not, or we like it or not, James Gunn is the co-CEO of DC Studios. Abusing him constantly is just going to pull away the dream of restoring the Snyderverse further away from us. Stop abusing him. So I think Real Anarchy on Twitter actually asked him if he would be attending snydercon 2, and he said he would be busy promoting Guardians Volume 3. Now, Snyder fans started quote tweeting saying, imagine him promoting a Marvel event instead of a DC event. Listen, that's not very fair, is it now? When he started on this Guardians journey, he had no idea he was going to lose his job temporarily, in terms of making the Guardians movies. And then he got the opportunity at DC. Then he got the bigger opportunity at DC. He didn't know this was going to happen. So attacking James for that isn't very fair. I can compliment James when I feel he deserves it, and I can criticize him or question his motives, like I have about him writing and directing Superman Legacy when he said he doesn't feel it in his bones. As a fan, I have every right to question his motives there and question whether he is the right person to co-lead DC Studios. The proof of the pudding is within the eating, and we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But the constant attacks of him, if you don't like him, that's fine. Stop telling him you don't like him. It's just hurting the movement. Now, the person I think who's done a wonderful job is Snyder Queen, with the whole, selling Snyderverse to Netflix campaign. It's beautiful, she's passionate, she's not going to give up, and no one's told her to give up, and neither should she. So you need to be a lot more like her. She believes Zack's hinting that the Snyderverse is going to be restored. And that's great, as long as you understand that the Snyderverse actually hasn't been restored yet. So celebrate the Snyderverse on the 28th of April with these 3 movies being played at this beautiful, brilliant event for a great cause. Do that, be excited, get involved in the hype, but don't allow yourself to be distracted, because this just could be a big distraction from WB to distract away from their failed movie, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. So you have to be very, very careful. Now, let's talk about the role that Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby have played in making this possible. I think people have misunderstood Zack when he said, the new Warner Brothers has been great. When he talks about the new Warner Brothers, he's not talking about Zaslav or Discovery. He's talking about Warner Brothers Pictures co-CEOs Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby, because it was Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby, right, that wanted to restore the Snyderverse, because they were temporarily running DC Studios in its early formation before Zaslav made the decision to bring in Gunn and Peter Safran. So they were the ones who decided to bring back Henry Cavill as Superman. They were the ones who wanted a Black Adam versus Superman movie. Who wouldn't want that? That's like you'll be printing money. Why do you think that Black Adam ended up making 400 million and, Shazam! Fury of the Gods probably won't even get to 300 million this time with this sequel? That tells you everything. I mean, Wonder Woman couldn't uplift that movie, but Superman certainly uplifted Black Adam to $400 million globally. Have a think about that for a minute as well. So there's no question, Pam and Mike wanted to restore the Snyderverse. They're Zack Snyder supporters. And it's very, very interesting who actually decided to bring in, Pam and Mike. Was it David Zaslav's decision? Obviously, he's the one who makes the decisions, but whose idea was it? It's a very interesting thing to think about who's been advising him. And so, yeah, whoever advised him to do that clearly is a Zack Snyder supporter as well. So that's an interesting situation. So they're the ones who made SnyderCon 2 possible. Not James Gunn, not David Zaslav. It's clear he would have to sign off on it because this is a very hands-on CEO. The CEO, David Zaslav of Warner Brothers Discovery, is very hands-on. Nothing happens unless he approves it. He checks out everything. So he's behind everything. He had to approve Henry Cavill announcing he was back as Superman. Then Gunn and Safran decided they didn't want that because they're from the old W Pictures school of villainy. That's why, Gunn and Safran were brought in by Hamada and Emmerich. Are you understanding? So the same old divisions we had before are there, just with different players. So now it's Warner Brothers Pictures that are actually supporting the restoration of the Snyderverse. I do believe we can trust Pam Adby and Mike DeLuca. I do believe that. I do believe they can be trusted. I just feel that the timing of all of this is utterly suspicious. But in terms of Mike and Pam, they're the ones who, basically said to The Rock, yeah, bring him back, put him in that post-credit scene. Good idea. Get him to announce he's back as Superman. That's what they wanted. They wanted, let's be absolutely clear, Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby wanted Henry Cavill to get his dream of a Man of Steel 2. A dream by many of us fans, a dream of mine as well. I still don't think that's off the table right now. As I say, you are dealing with a very, very desperate studio that are not making any money. And I think they can now see the decision to take Cavill away as Superman may have been a mistake. Or was he removed from DC Universe so he can be back part of the Snyderverse? Are they doing this on purpose? Will Gal Gadot be removed as the Wonder Woman in DC Universe? I think these things are actually good things. If you take all those actors away and you don't use them in the future, you can use them when the Snyderverse is restored, or if the Snyderverse is restored. Again, I don't want to be giving you any false hope. There's no question. I'm more hopeful now about the restoration of the Snyderverse than I was a few weeks ago, or a few days before the release of, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, because this is when this thing coincidentally, suspiciously first started. Again, you need to be fully aware of the timing of this. Mike DeLuca is a genius. He wanted to do an Iron Man movie before anyone else even thought of it. He produced Blade. Mike DeLuca and Pam Adby are titans of old Hollywood. They're not really part of new woke Hollywood, extremist Hollywood. And I think you also need to be aware of that. So they are good guys. They are on the right side. They are on the side of making great movies. This is why they were brought in. That's the name I was thinking of, Alan Horn. We know that former Warner Brothers CEO Alan Horn and the guy who helped Bob Iger build up Disney to the mammoth it is today was the one who brought in DeLuca and Adby, not Zaslav, because Zaslav brought him in as an advisor, but he's making several decisions on his own. And bringing in Adby and DeLuca was his idea. We also know that he's always been a big Zack Snyder fan, considering I think he greenlit 300, which was one of the biggest Zack Snyder films. Back in the days when Zack Snyder was lauded by everyone. When the release of 300 happened and Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder was this new niche director that everybody loved and nobody hated. He got the hate after he did Watchmen, because the way he did it was controversial. But because I've never read the comics, it doesn't bother me. I love Watchmen. Watchmen is a fucking masterpiece, just like Man of Steel is, BVS and the Snyder Cut. And Rebel Moon will also be a masterpiece, because this is a niche director. He's great. He's brilliant. We need to look after and protect Zack Snyder. There's no question about that. He's one of these directors that's giving people entertainment. And we don't have many of them left in this industry. They've been driven out. So I think that Adby and DeLuca are still working towards the same aim. By working with Zack to make snydercon 2 a possibility, they're trying to show Zaslav that Zack and the Snyderverse can make WB a lot of money, whether that's by selling it to Netflix or actually having it part of the DC Elseworld. And there's no question, there is money in restoring the Snyderverse. I don't think, we're not talking about $1 billion a picture, but who knows, by the way. But there would be lots of excitement about Justice League 2 and 3, and maybe even Affleck's Batman. Who knows? Maybe even Ray Fisher in a Cyborg movie directed by Zack Snyder. All these things are a possibility if we restore the Snyderverse. So that's a very interesting thing. Now, apparently there's also a rumour during SnyderCon 2 that the Green Lantern sequence at the end of the movie will be put back into Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut when it screens at SnyderCon 2. Now, if that does happen, I do want to see a cut with him in it. Take my money out. Take my money out. Take my money now. I would absolutely love to see that. So there's no question. All of a sudden, after being a very depressed DC fan after the release of Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Zack Snyder did something for all of us to celebrate DC. And again, when I think of the Snyderverse now and Zack Snyder, I feel really happy and excited. When I think about DC, I think there's potential for more. I just don't want people to get their hopes up too high. And remember, this is a very, very desperate studio. So I want us to be aware of all of that, but there is a potential here. If Warner Brothers Discovery can't see that there's money to be made from the Snyderverse, but then again, these are people, you've got Keanu Reeves saying that originally they wanted to do Constantine 2, now they might not do it. Don't you want to make any money, Mr. Zaslav? Keanu Reeves is very popular thanks to John Wick. Look at the fucking money. A franchise best for John Wick 4. Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, they've got, what have they got? That Gotham Knights thing over on the CW, which is doing nothing for them. Fucking embarrassing. But they shelved Batgirl. It's all very, very strange. Don't you want to make money? The Snyderverse, Keanu Reeves, Constantine 2 can all make you money. But as I say, I want everything. I want James Gunn to do his thing. I want to continue consuming what Todd Phillips and Matt Reeves are doing. And I want the Snyderverse to be part of DC Elseworlds or over on Netflix, whatever the case. So it is a situation where we can have it all. But just be careful. We are dealing with a very, very desperate studio. They're all very desperate right now. And right now, the Snyderverse hasn't been restored. Let's see what happens after SnyderCon 2. Finally today, let's talk about Todd Phillips' Joker, Folie à Deux, Joker 2. Just like the first film, there's a lot of leaked footages because what happens is when you go on location to make a movie or TV show, there's nothing you can do to protect what you're doing. I think Todd did this purposely with the first film and he's doing it purposely with the second film. He wants us to see what we're seeing. We've seen pictures of Lady Gaga as Harley. Yesterday we saw her in a video of her character kissing an extra. Oh, what it is to be an extra. I used to love being an extra, but I was never kissed by Lady Gaga and I'm gutted. So in the newspaper as well, you've got them, the newspapers celebrating Harley and the Joker as this couple, this crime couple, or whatever it is. So Todd Phillips is going for this. He's going to do the live action version of the love story between Joker and Harley Quinn. Something we saw a little bit about from the first Suicide Squad, but we haven't seen it from the beginning. So I'm very, very excited about this. I'm a fan of the Batman animated series, and that's where Harley was introduced in animation. I thought Margot Robbie was brilliant in the first Suicide Squad movie. Then I didn't like what she did with the character in Birds of Prey. And although she's all right in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, there's something I didn't like about her in that, and it just felt she was becoming a feminist icon rather than the character, the psychotic character we've grown up to love. And I think Todd Phillips will definitely go in this Bonnie and Clyde love story direction, because that's what Harley and the Joker is. And he's changing certain facets of this character. So she's not a psychiatrist working in Arkham. She's an inmate in this film. So they clearly escaped from Arkham. We've seen pictures of Arkham being on fire. I think it was Arkham anyway. So this is going to be a great Bonnie and Clyde story. So this is the corner of DC I'm really looking forward to. The Penguin, Batman 2, and all the stuff we're seeing from Joker Folie à Deux is really, really exciting me, everyone. Who doesn't want this? Who doesn't want to see this Joker and Harley, Bonnie and Clyde movie? It's going to be so awesome. And all the pictures we're seeing of Lady Gaga, I mean, what casting? Think about it for a minute. Who else? I mean, she's famous, she's a great singer, she's popular, she's in everyone's cup of tea. But there's something else we're not thinking about and forgotten about. This is a fucking musical. Imagine the fucking soundtrack, because studios can make lots of money out of films with cinema tickets, but with selling copies of the soundtrack as well. This soundtrack will be on fire. And I've heard that Lady Gaga will write and sing most of the tracks in this movie as well. And of course, Joaquin Phoenix will be doing a lot of singing in this movie as well. So this is a very different DC Elseworlds movie. But this is what the Elseworlds banner is all about. This was part of Todd Phillips' vision when he came to WB with the idea of Joker doing a black label franchise. He's done the Joker story. He's now doing the Joker and Harley love story. I mean, I wish I could interview and speak to Joaquin Phoenix and ask him, you've never done a sequel before, Joaquin. Why are you doing one this time? And I'm sure he would tell me, because there's a challenge in doing something different here. It's a musical. He trusts Todd Phillips. They worked really well with the first movie. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is someone who loves his art, and he will do anything to convince people he's that character, losing weight, anything. He's a bit like, I think, Christian Bale in that way. And I do respect artists who really go for it. And they're here for the art and not for the fame. And, you know, everything that Joaquin's gone through, the loss of his brother when he was a young boy, you know, he says when he performs, he sees his brother. So, yeah, it's so excited for this film. And I think that's what people are not understanding and are sleeping on. We are getting a live action version of the Harley and Joker's love story. Harley's and Joker's love story. That's huge. You know, apart from the little snippets we got in the first Suicide Squad movie, we've never seen that before. A whole movie dedicated on their love story. Now, we've seen banners of Harvey Dent, so that would hint that he's in the movie, but maybe he'll be in the background. Maybe we won't actually see Harvey. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Will we see Bruce Wayne in this movie? We saw him as a young boy in the first movie. I think we will see Bruce Wayne in this movie. And it's interesting how much time has passed since the first film, because that would give us a clue how old Bruce Wayne would be now. Have they jumped a decade? Is it like just continuing where the last film left off? So that'll be an interesting thing. But I am convinced that they will have the continuing story of Bruce Wayne in this movie and the rest of the Black Label. So I'm so excited. All the pictures from the on-location shoots we're getting are very, very cool. Lady Gaga looks absolutely amazing as Harley Quinn. This is why I believe we probably won't see Margot Robbie very much as Harley. She'll probably cameo here and there, but I think once we see Joker Folie à Deux, I don't think anyone's going to be talking about Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn anymore. And I think that would suit Todd Phillips down to the ground. It's clear that Lady Gaga will want to continue playing this character as well. This is a huge situation, and I can't wait till next year till we get to see Joker Folie à Deux. This has been Monday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wife. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection, and I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.